letting us get technology working.
No worries. Thank you for squeezing us in. I know this is kind of last minute, but we appreciate
Oh,
it.
no problem.
Well, for starters, you all had sent out the release on Senate Bill 143, but kind of talk me through what this will mean for the future of Alabama and how we prosecute crime.
Well, I think number one, this bill provides law enforcement with a tool that we've seen other states have that just simply hadn't been available. And when we hear, the police chief in Birmingham, the mayor of Birmingham talk about what is a driver of much of their violent crime problem, this bill specifically targets our efforts in that regard. And so excited that we've seen clear bipartisan support for this bill in both the House and the Senate, which is a recognition that even in partisan times like ours, that community safety is something that unites people together. And this is a bill that's going to help us be able to do that better.
How will it make the community safer?
Well, number one, we're going to be able to identify what is really that driver that exacerbates particularly violent crime. And that is crime centered around activity of organized groups pursuing their own criminal agendas. Number one, we've never had an opportunity to be able to create that deterrent effect that enhancing penalties will provide, but also to be able to send a strong message that if you're going to be involved in an organized group that's targeting individuals or businesses with criminal activity, that we're going to make sure that we deal with you swiftly in a way that sends accountability.
Are these increased penalties, are they strong enough?
No, we believe they are, and we believe they're consistent with what we've seen both federal law deal with historically as well as various states. And we think that we struck the right balance in how it is that we want to be able to address these particular offenses.
What is new? You had kind of talked about this is something that we weren't able to do before.
Yeah, number one, it allows us to be able to target organized criminal groups and not just people participating in groups themselves. I've heard people say that, and frankly, not at all what this bill does. It basically says if you're going to be a part of these organized groups, 3 or more people that are going to then engage in crimes that further the purpose of that particular organization, then we're going to deal with those crimes in a very different way. And I think that's the unique part of this bill that we haven't had before. The other thing is we want to send a strong message that for those organized groups that are using guns, that there's going to be a penalty and a swift penalty for that as well.
And a big part of this bill is that it tries anyone under the age of 16 as an adult, or they could potentially be charged as an adult. And at Alabama right now, people can apply for youthful offender status until they're 21. How will that change how crime is prosecuted as well?
Well, I think it's again a clear message that we want to make sure that young people are not in groups that are committed to engaging in criminal activity. And to the extent that they are, and as we continue to see younger and younger people committing violent offenses, we want to be able to send that clear message as a matter of policy in our state that this is conduct that we simply can't tolerate. We don't want to see, number one, young people be a part of organized criminal groups. And number two, we want to make sure that we give that disincentive for individuals to make that choice.
And the other side of this is that you could potentially be sending away a teenager for decades. Is that the right answer to curb crime?
Well, one of the things that we want to do is to deter that criminal conduct. And to the extent that somebody 17 years old decides to take the life of somebody else, then we need to deal with that in a significant way. This is not something that would happen if somebody's out, stealing something that's worth $20, right? I mean, that's not what this bill is designed to do, nor is what it's going to be targeted for. This is really aimed at those that commit those violent offenses, or to make sure that we don't allow for crimes to escalate, because that's one of the things that we see as a result of these organized groups is that small offenses ultimately become big offenses. And we want to make sure that we also don't allow that to happen.
Is increasing the penalties for crime like this, is this the answer? Is this getting to the root of the problem of violence in our communities?
Well, I think it's part of what law enforcement's response needs to be. And to the extent that there are other ways that we want to attack issues, this doesn't foreclose that and allows for individual communities to be very proactive in addressing the situation that they have to deal with themselves. But for law enforcement and prosecutors, this is a very important tool, and we think it absolutely sends the right message with regard to community safety.
Is there anything else that you think needs to be done besides the tougher penalties, maybe socially, to curb crime?
I can't speak to any of the social side of the house, but what I do know is that when we enhance opportunities for people to be full-time employed, when they're able to get that high school degree, they're less likely to be involved with what the criminal justice system is about. And so, there are obviously multiple ways of being able to attack criminal issues. This is a tool for law enforcement and prosecutors to play their role in the criminal justice system.
Anything else with this bill that you wanted to mention
I
and
don't
why
think
you
so.
supported it?
No, I mean, look, we not always support it, we were behind it. And, what you saw is universal support from law enforcement, believing this was something that was needed. And again, very grateful to see so much support in the legislature, almost unanimous, both House and Senate votes, in being able to see this bill pass, which tells me this is something that our legislators and our policymakers recognize that we need in Alabama.
All right. Well, thank you. I think that's all I have, but thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.